Hey folks, and welcome to another video from West Yorkshire Retro Gamer. It's another Leeds United video, and it's a big one. As far as the football match is concerned, it is Leeds United versus Leicester City. It is third versus first. The match is going to be played at Leicester's ground, the King Power Stadium. And there's a lot riding on this, especially for Leeds. Leicester have made an unthinkable start to the season, only losing one game so far. And Leeds, not a bad start by any means. They're in third place. They've had plenty of wins themselves this season. But they're up against a Leicester side who are banging form. Spent a lot of money in the summer. Kept some of their players from last season when they were in the Premier League. And have built up a squad that is clearly, one of the best in the Championship. So Leeds will be up against it. But Leeds themselves have built a good squad this season. They've got a manager in Daniel Farke who has achieved 2 promotions from the Championship to the Premier League when he was the manager at Norwich. And so he's going to have to use every grain of knowledge and experience that he's got to get some kind of a result against Leicester City on Friday night. You're going to get 2 teams who are likely to be very attacking. I don't see either team parking the bus. Both teams like to attack. They like to attack in numbers with flair and skill. And they create a lot of chances. So this could be quite an open game. But I think that both teams will realise and recognise the attacking quality that both teams have at this level. And special reservations may be made for that. So I thought I'd start the video by looking at Leicester's stats, just to get a little bit of an insight as to where they seem to be excelling and where their strengths lie, and also to kind of gauge what the lineup might be for tomorrow night as well. So, using the website whoscored.com, I have brought up the current Leicester squad, and I've highlighted the minutes column so that we can see which players are featuring predominantly for the Foxes. So as you can see, their most time consuming player so far has been Harry Winks, signed for about £10 million from Tottenham Hotspur in the summer. Obviously a very experienced player, 27-year-old now I believe, and highly experienced. Never really quite good enough for the Tottenham team. However, at Championship level, even at as high price as 10 million, is probably a bit of a steal. So he's obviously been a key cog in the Leicester City machinery. As you can see there, 14 appearances with a total number of minutes of 1,253. Now he's only got 1 goal and no assists. However, as you can see there, he is a defensive-minded midfielder and unlikely to chip in with too many goals or assists this season. However, with all of that experience, he's obviously anchoring the midfield for Leicester. The more creative outlet in terms of the midfield engine is the fella you can see underneath Harry Winks there, Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall. Now, with a name like that, you'd think he might be related to the Prince of Wales or something like that. But he is a player who, as far as I'm aware, came through Leicester's youth ranks, and even at the age of 25 is still there. He's kind of doing what Calvin Phillips did at Leeds United not that long ago, playing for his boyhood club up into his mid-20s. Now, Dewsbury Hall is obviously the creative outlet. He has started 13 games and come on as a sub in one of the others, and has a total number of minutes of 1,195. He currently has 5 goals and 6 assists. A very good return. You can see his average match rating is considerably higher than Harry Winks. And a big part of that will be down to the goals and assists that Dewsbury Hall has created for himself so far. One interesting aspect is the number of yellow cards that Winks and Dewsbury Hall have. They have 4 each. If they get 1 more each very soon, then they could be suspended for a match, and this could leave a big gaping hole in the Leicester midfield. Now, it would be interesting to see what Leicester might do if they lose both Winks and Dewsbury Hall at the same time. However, they're going to have players that can definitely fill in and still do a pretty good job, you would imagine. In the Heart defence, they've got the gigantic Dane Yannick Vestergaard. He's played 13 matches so far, totaling 1,170 minutes. He has a goal to his name, but look at the number of yellow cards, 7. He can be a little bit clumsy at times due to his massive size. I mean, he's just short of 2 metres tall, and according to this, just short of 100 kilograms in weight, that is a pretty large fella, to say the least. He will cause an obvious aerial threat at corners and set pieces, which again is surprising that he hasn't scored more, based on that. However, he's a big strong boy, and he will attempt to make it difficult for Leeds' front men. After that, you've got one of the new signings that they made in the summer, Danish goalkeeper Mads Hermansen, who has taken the number 1 spot really, and considering that there are 5 goalkeepers on Leicester's books, which is a ridiculous number of goalkeepers really. Hermansen, at just 23 years old, is their first choice goalkeeper. He has played 12 games. No, he hasn't. I've gone way down there. 13 games, sorry, at 1,170 minutes. Only 1 yellow card. Obviously, no goals or assists. Not the massive overall rating that some of the others have got, but let's face it, he's currently the number 1 goalkeeper for the team at the top of the league, so he can't be doing that bad. And with 5 goalkeepers on the books, if he was doing that bad, he'd have been dropped. But he is Maresca's goalkeeper at the end of the day, so you'd expect him to be the main man between the sticks. After that, you've got the striker Stefan Mavididi, who has played 12 games with 2 sub-appearances, and there's another player over 1,000 minutes so far, with 1,083. He's got 3 goals and 3 assists in that time, and also 3 yellow cards. Seems that 3 is Mavadidi's magic number at this moment in time. Ricardo Pereira has been playing fullback for them, I believe. There's a lot of other streamers and YouTubers that have been hyping up Pereira's performances so far. Just 1 assist to his name so far, 4 yellow cards. So again, he's susceptible to getting in the book. 1,078 minutes for the Portugal fullback. And again with a rating of 6.99, so it's solid, if not spectacular. But as I say, a lot of people have been hyping up Pereira's performances this season so far. He is 30 now, obviously highly experienced, and obviously doing a pretty good job. We would expect Vestergaard's defensive partner to be the Belgian Wout Faes. Has one of the most ridiculous hairstyles in the entire English leagues, and has made 11 appearances so far, totaling 990 minutes. He's the first player to drop out of the 1,000-minute club. Has 1 goal to his name, only 2 yellow cards, but does have a rating of 7.12. So he's been pretty solid, to say the least. But it's interesting that, between Faes and Vestergaard, that they've not been more of an aerial threat from corners and set pieces. You would have thought that with that sheer size in defence there, that if they come up for corners, that they would be more of a threat, and obviously they've not been. Now this could possibly be down to the way that Leicester play, that they don't necessarily rely on corners and set pieces. I believe that most of their goals have come from open play, which would explain that. After that, you've got Wilfred Ndidi, 26 years old, very good Nigerian defensive midfielder. Was originally signed by Leicester to replace the fellow that moved to Chelsea. The name slips my mind now of the name of that player. But yeah, initially Ndidi was brought in to replace him, and has been, obviously a very good player for Leicester so far. He is the first player to fall out of double figures in terms of starts, but has made 9 starts with 3 sub-appearances, totaling 739 minutes. So these minutes do start to diminish at this particular point. Ndidi has 1 goal with 3 assists. Hasn't picked up any cards. He's the first player in this list to have not picked up any yellow cards as of yet. So obviously a very clean player, or just seems to get away with it, one or the other. I haven't watched Leicester to know. But again, Ndidi could make up potentially, either a 2 or a 3 in central midfield, depending on how Leicester want to play against Leeds. I get the feeling that Leicester will be aware of Leeds' attacking threat, and so they might not want to go too defensive, so it won't be a guarantee that Winks and Ndidi will both start the match, with maybe Dewsbury Hall playing in a 10 role perhaps, based on Dewsbury Hall's goals and assists so far. It'll really depend on whatever kind of formation and tactic Enzo Maresca wants his team to do. But he will be aware of Leeds' threat, there's no doubt about that. You've then got the evergreen Jamie Vardy. 36 years old now, and that's kind of showing in the number of starts and sub appearances. But he's got 7 of each, still very solid, and just a minute shy of 700 minutes there. Which again, for the 7, it seems like the 7s is the magic number for Jamie Vardy. Previously a bit of a speed demon. Whether he's got all of that pace still is unlikely. But you can't argue with his goal output overall in his career. The guy is a goal scorer. I remember Jamie Vardy when he was at Halifax Town, my hometown, and you could just tell that he was going to be quite a player in front of goal. Currently has 4 goals and 1 assist with just 1 yellow card. And when you consider that he's only started 7 games and come on for another 7 as a sub, and has only played 700 minutes, compared to the players above him so far, it's a pretty solid return, which proves that if you can get the ball in and around that box and get it to Jamie Vardy, chances are he will probably at least get it on target, even if he doesn't score. So he will have to be watched, and that is if he starts. After that, you've got Callum Doyle, who is only 20 years old, and has made 8 starts with no sub appearances so far. 676 minutes, no goals, but does have an assist, and has only picked up 1 yellow card. He's got a rating of 7.10, so obviously a very solid performer when he plays. Now, on the other side of the striking department, they have a new player called Abdul Fatawu. Not a player that I know anything about really. He's only 19 though. Has made 7 starts, 3 sub appearances, with just a couple of minutes over 600 in total. 1 goal and 1 assist. So, has found the back of the net. With a rating of 7.10 again, so when he has played, he's been quite effective, but knows how to get in the book. Another player with 4 yellow cards so far. They do seem to have a number of players on that 4 yellow card mark, and it makes you wonder if if any of these get booked in the match tomorrow. How will that derail Leicester's progress, if at all? Next on the list is James Justin. Showed a lot of promise when Leicester signed him, and has played on both sides at fullback. He had a very lengthy injury, if memory serves me right. Has obviously come back into the fold. There was talk of him maybe getting looked at by the England squad back when Leicester were in the Premier League, so that's the kind of calibre of player that Justin can perform at his best. He's only managed 6 starts with 3 sub appearances so far though, totaling 587 minutes. Does have a goal and a couple of yellow cards to his name. 6.94 is his rating. Next you've got another one of Leicester's attacking options, Kelechi Iheanacho. He's 27 now. Feels like he's been around a long time. I think he came through Manchester City's ranks originally. Like Vardy, has bagged himself 7 starts and 7 sub-appearances. A few less minutes though for Iheanacho, 566. Has been quite prolific in that time though, 5 goals and an assist to his name with just 1 yellow card. One thing you'll notice is that Leicester haven't got any red cards up to this point, and that's probably down to the fact that because they have either dominated or controlled matches, is that they've obviously committed less dangerous fouls. Or it could be that the referees are just missing it. Who knows? Moving on to a young Italian player that must have joined at the start of this season, Cesare Cosadai. Don't really know anything about this kid, to be fair. Just 20 years old, defensive midfielder, so he's going to struggle to get ahead of the likes of Ndidi and Winks if he is a more defensive-minded midfielder. So he's probably been signed more as a backup, but he's made 4 starts with 7 sub-appearances, totaling 441 minutes, and has a goal to his name. So chances are he's unlikely to start. If we assume that Leicester are going to play their strongest possible 11, due to the opposition that they're going to face in Leeds United, you would anticipate that Leicester will look to play their strongest possible 11. Same with Leeds. Leeds will obviously, look to play their strongest 11 when you consider the opposition being top of the league currently. After that, let's have a look here. You've got a young player called Casey McAteer. These players are starting to get to the point where they've not played all that much football this season, but still, still over the 100 minutes mark. So Casey McAteer, 5 starts, 3 sub-appearances with 431 minutes. 4 goals though. So, they've got a player there who, is he a bit more of an impact player? He's only made 3 sub-appearances. But the fact that he's only been involved in 8 matches so far, and the fact that he's got 4 goals in that time, obviously makes him quite an effective young player. So he could feature, based on all of them goals in such a small amount of time. It wouldn't be a surprise if McAteer was to start against Leeds. Hamza Chowdhury is next. He's a bit of a Leicester veteran, even at the youngish age of 26. He's another one that came through their youth ranks as far as I'm aware, or at the very least has certainly been at Leicester for a long time. 3 starts, 8 sub-appearances, so it looks to me as if Chowdhury has been seen as a player to kind of come on and help shore things up towards the back, to kind of see games out. Just 283 minutes for Chowdhury so far. And again, he's another player that's not likely to get past the likes of Winks or Ndidi, really, if we're going to be realistic about it. Then it's a Turkish player, Yunus Akgun. He has 3 starts and 4 sub-appearances with 253 minutes and has an assist to his name and 1 yellow card. Chowdhury doesn't have any goals, assists or yellow cards so far, by the way. So again, with that, I would say it's unlikely that Akgun will start. Again, it really depends on what Maresca's plans are. Does Maresca plan on, giving some other players a chance against Leeds, or is he just going to go with his strongest lineup? We shall see tomorrow night. Conor Cody next, experienced player, can do both defensive midfield and centre back I think he's played more centre back in his career in more recent times. Obviously very experienced, 30 years old now. Just 2 starts and 2 sub appearances, totaling 186 minutes. It's not the kind of minutes that a player of Conor Cody's experience would be expecting. I think he'd be expecting to get in the team more. But as you can see, he can't seem to budge his way past Vestergaard or Faze at this moment in time. But obviously a highly experienced player to have on that bench. We're getting down to a bunch of players who really haven't featured very much at this point. I won't go below the next 2 because they're obviously not in the plans of the manager, or have just simply been injured for for most of the season. But the next player is a youngish midfielder, Wanya Marsal, 21 years old. I don't know anything about him really. Just 2 starts with 142 minutes to his belt so far, but he has got a goal and a rating of 7.11, so he's not done terrible when he's been called upon, but I think he's just got too much competition ahead of him. And then finally, experienced Belgian player Dennis Pratt, who has been with Leicester for some time now, has only mustered 1 start and 1 sub appearance, totaling 112 minutes. So, just 1 assist to his name, and his rating's just a smidge under 7 there. Players after that, we'll give them a mention even though they've not really featured. There's the likes of goalkeeper Jakub Stolarczyk, huge Aussie defender Harry Suter, highly experienced defender and midfielder Mark O'Brighton, and Zambian striker Patson Daka. But again, you would, these are well down the list and you would not expect them to feature unless there are certain injuries in the Leicester camp, or possibly a shift in tactics. So that's obviously something for Italian manager Enzo Maresca to consider in his team selection. So, if you give me a moment here, folks, I am going to go on to the statistics for Leeds now. So I'm just going to bring up Leeds United's stats here. I have just spotted something actually. I will just bring this back up. So this is still to do with Leicester. If you look here, so in the Championship, we'll ignore the cup, that doesn't really matter. But 14 games so far, 29 goals. I mean, that's a lot of goals, isn't it? That's over 2 a game. 36 yellow cards. Now that is quite a lot. Again, comfortably over 2 yellow cards a game. I suppose it's not terrible in the scheme of things, is it? But again, the discipline you would expect would be really good because they're playing a brand of football at the moment where other teams can't touch them. So yeah, in the scheme of things, maybe it's not that bad. They average possession of 64%, which is really big. Now you see Leeds tend to be a fairly well possession based team as well. So this is going to be 2 teams fighting for that ball throughout the entirety of the match, I would imagine. a very high pass percentage success rate as well, with 88.8%. I mean, that's really good, isn't it? You can't lie. 12.9 aerial battles won, and they've got an overall rating of 6.9. I mean, it's pretty big. You know, we could go into more stats like defense, offense, passing, and detailed, but we'll just stick with the overall summary. Again, you could break this down into home or away form as well, if you wanted to. So, I mean, a predicted lineup just before I move on to Leeds. You know, if we assume that all of them are available, it's likely to be, you know, Winks is obviously going to anchor that midfield. He's going to have Dewsbury always at 10. Vestergaard's going to lead the centre of defence with Hermansen in goal. Mavididi is likely to be, you know, on one side of either Vardy or Iheanacho. Pereira is going to be in at fullback. Faze is likely to partner Vestergaard. Ndidi is likely to partner Winks. As I say, it could be either Vardy or Iheanacho based on that 7 starts and 7 sub-appearances. Both of them have obviously been used as the central striker, but have taken it in turns, almost, you know, between the two. So it's going to be a case of which of those two strikers is either going to be fit enough, or which is going to be the most suited for the threat of Leeds United in the eyes of Enzo Maresca. With this in mind, you would possibly think that you know, the other fullback is likely to be James Justin. I would think that maybe, you know, Callum Doyle might be on the bench. I mean, you know, does Maresca go with 2 up top? You know, is he going to go super attacking? You know, based on the opposition, could he figure out a way of starting both Iheanacho and Vardy, which would be very dangerous, potentially. But again, he could start with the with the prolific Casey McAteer, so it could end up being McAteer, you know, on one side of either Vardy or Iheanacho. And then probably Mavididi based on his minutes. So you would expect Mavididi to be on one side of the striker, and probably McAteer on the other. You know, based on how prolific he's been, you would think that he's going to be more of a threat than Abdul Fatawu, based on the output so far. So yeah, you know, that's the predicted lineup then. You know, if all of those players are available, you would think that is probably the likely lineup, and that is a very dangerous lineup at this level. Look at the number of goals. You know, the number of goals, 29, over 2 a game. Against a team like Leeds United, you're gonna play your players who have got the goals, aren't you? You're gonna play Dewsbury Hall. You're gonna play Mavididi. You're gonna play Jamie Vardy. You're gonna play Iheanacho, and you're gonna play McAteer. If all of those don't feature, it would be one hell of a surprise based on their goal output so far. So let's move on to Leeds United. So I'll just bring Leeds' stats up here. There was no point really looking at their win-loss record of recent times either, because it's just win all the bloody way through, in it, you know, typical. So let's have a look at Leeds then, the team that matters here as far as I'm concerned. Leicester can do what they want, but at the end of the day, it's how Leeds play that's going to dictate whether Leeds get anything from this game. So, Leeds United, my team of the hour. So, in the Championship, you can see there, 24 goals. Not that far off Leicester in terms of the number of goals scored. Look at that. Pretty good. You know, only a handful less than Leicester. You know, so another team that can obviously be quite dominant up front. Not quite as much possession, but still very high at 57.5. Pass success rate again just a little bit less at 84.3, but just as many aerial duels, would I think, if I remember right. 14.1, and overall rating just slightly lower than Leicester's. Leicester's were about 6.9. Leeds coming in at 6.76. So you can see that the two teams, solely based on this, are quite even. Discipline-wise, Leeds have had a red card, whereas Leicester haven't. And with 24 yellow cards, again, a very clean team, generally speaking. You know, less than 2 a game, you know, which is pretty impressive, really not bad at all. So, if I press the minutes column here, this is going to give us an indication now as to who's been dominating the game time at Leeds this season. Both clubs have played 14 games, so again, gives us an indication here. So, Ethan Ampadu, pick of the pile, has played every game, 1,260 minutes, played every minute then effectively, you know, which is highly impressive. No goals or assists, but he does play the anchor role. He does play that role just in front of the back four, protecting the defence there. Picked up 3 yellow cards, but with a rating of just a smidge under 7, has been a very effective player so far. One hell of a signing. Kind of like Harry Winks for Leicester. I would say that Ampadu, you know, it's kind of been brought in around 6 or 7 million from Chelsea, and definitely money well spent. Been a real rock in that heart of the midfield there. After that, Leeds' goalkeeper Ilimillier, ever present so far. Again, 14 games, 1,260 minutes of football. It was interesting to see that Leicester didn't have that many that had played all 14 games and played the maximum number of minutes, which was interesting. Meslier, you know, his rating's not that great at the moment, 6.58, but I don't think he's done that bad. I think he's a young goalkeeper. He's still only 23 years old. You know, he's a bit like Hermansen at Leicester. You know, they're not old for goalkeepers. So there's a lot of reliance on you know, fairly young goalkeepers at both clubs. So Illan's going to have to be on his mettle. I mean, all the Leeds players are going to have to be on their mettle. You know, they're going to have to perform at their very best to keep out the threat of Leicester. So hopefully Illan has, you know, a fantastic game, as I hope all of the Leeds players will. After that, you've got Pascal Struijk, who has been played in his more preferable position of centre back as opposed to left back in recent seasons. And you know, to be fair to Pascal, he's playing well. He's having a good season. You can see his rating is a little bit closer to the the seven mark there at 6.89, and has been a very good and ever-present player in the defence there. So as you can see there, that defensive spine, starting with Meslier, and then with Strauch in front of him and Ampadu in front of him, all three of them heavily contributing to Leeds' season so far. Has a very good success rate with aerial duels won, with 2.4. Very, very effective from the big Dutchman there. One goal so far, only one yellow card, which again is pretty good for a centre-back. That's pretty good. Keeps a clean game. I mean, he's had the captain's armband a couple of times this season as well. He's just getting better. He's getting better and better. He's still only 24 years old. So there's a lot of promise. And if Leeds get promoted, you never know. He might just start knocking on the door of the Dutch squad. Never know. But yeah, a good season for Pascal so far. Long may that continue. After that, you've got the talented Jorginho Rutter. The first player not to have played every single minute of football, but still over that 1,000 mark. 12 starts with one sub-appearance. Only 2 goals, but 5 assists. He's seen the book a couple of times. But look at that overall rating, 7.43. Now this is down to his creative numbers. He's a very, very skillful player at this level. He might have been found out a little bit, when we were in the Premier League, but at this level, he's a bit of a cut above. He's the flair player that, or one of the flair players that Leicester is going to have to deal with. If Rutter has a good game, then chances are Leeds could have a good game. That is how good Georgie Rutter has been this season so far. The assists speak for themselves. He's so creative. When you get him on the ball, if he starts in that number 10 role, even though he is playing as the number 9, technically speaking, if he starts, with the ball and has a little bit of space in front of him, very, very good. It has looked a real class apart at this level. So he's one of the danger men that Leicester will have to look out for. Absolutely, no doubt in my mind. Really very good. And again, long may it continue. He's a confidence player. When he's playing with confidence, he's so silky on the ball, and at this level. And again, his skills will be required. He needs to be on it, but if he's on it, good luck, Leicester. And I really don't wish Leicester any luck against Leeds whatsoever. But anyway, next, the highly impressive Archie Gray, part of the Gray dynasty that have featured for Leeds over the years. Just 17 years old. I can't really say anything more on top of what every other YouTuber has said about Archie so far. It's his first season in professional football, playing for a senior team, and he's looked extremely good. He's had some caps for the England youth teams as well this season. He's played a lot of football, and he's over the 1,000 minutes mark, with 11 starts and 2 sub-appearances to his name so far. Has made a very, very good partnership with Ethan Ampadu, and the two of them just look really, really good. A very good pass success rate of over 80%. Only has an overall rating of 6.62, which is a little bit low, but I mean that might have something to do with the fact that he's not played in midfield for all of those appearances. He has deputised at right back on a few occasions this season, as well as playing in that defensive midfield role alongside Ethan Ampadu. So Archie Gray, if he's got the opportunity to play in that midfield, you would think that Daniel Farke will play him there. But we'll have to see. Because again, at 17 years old, his minutes have to be managed to look after him. Because he has had injuries in the past, as Archie, so the club will be looking to look after him, as he is a real talented young player. Moving on then, another player who came through Leeds' youth academy, but is at the other end of the spectrum in terms of age. I still can't believe that he's 30 years old now. Sam Byram. How the hell is he 30? I remember him coming through the Leeds youth ranks. So I can't believe he's as old as 30 already. But despite previous injury worries between his two stints at Leeds, he has managed 11 starts with 2 sub-appearances and over 900 minutes so far, with 915. He has a goal and an assist to his name. He's been playing in a slightly more unfamiliar position of left back. He was originally a right back when he came through at Leeds. But to be fair to Sam, he has looked highly impressive. Really, really good at left back. He just has that little bit of extra quality that, you know, even fullbacks that Leeds have had in the Premier League can't really, you know, they can't match up to Byram at the minute. Has looked a cut above quite a few players this season, and you can see that in his match rating of just under 7 there at 6.94. It's going to be vital that Sam Byram is kept as fit as possible for the entire season, because he's looked very, very good. Long may it continue. He's forming a very good partnership on that left-hand side, you know, with the wingers that are just in front of him. Looks really good. After that, Leeds' big money signing of the summer, Joel Perreault. 5 goals and 1 assist. Has started 11 times. Perreault, with that 5 goals and 1 assist, you would possibly have thought that he would have scored more. However, he has actually been deployed in more of a 10 role rather than a 9, allowing for Rutter to play at 9. So many fans have been calling for Perreault and Rutter to swap, due to the fact that Rutter is so good at dribbling with the ball from that 10 role, you know, and Perreault is obviously so clinical when he gets the ball in and around the box. However, Daniel Farke is the manager, not myself, and not any of the other hundreds of, you know, Leeds fans who do these kind of videos. And so ultimately we have to respect Daniel Farke's decision, and as long as it keeps working, then fair enough. But we would, you know, I think some Leeds fans would like to see a little bit more goal output from Perreault, because they know how good he is. You don't get 40 goals in 80 games for a team like Swansea, no disrespect to Swansea, and not be a good player at this level. So Perreault, vital, you know, to that attacking format that Leeds play. After that, you've got another Welshman in Joe Rodon. Has made 10 starts and 1 sub-appearance, totaling 844 minutes. No goals or assists so far for Rodon, despite being a pretty sizable figure. You know, he's bigger than Strouk, and that's saying something. Strouk's a big boy. But despite that, You know, he wasn't signed to score goals, he was signed to keep things tight at the back. And for the most part, you know, he has done just that. He has a rating of 6.7. It's probably dropped a little bit by the fact that he's the one player with the red card. And that shouldn't have been a red. The first yellow was not a yellow at all. However, it is what it is. But Roden, definitely a good player in there. Has won 3 aerial duels so far, and you can understand why with his physical, you know, with his physicality, and just general size and presence. Moving on to talented Dutch winger Crescencio Somerville. Now, Cree's been excellent this season. 9 starts, 2 sub-appearances, 812 minutes, has resulted so far in 6 goals and 4 assists. He is on it this season. He really is. A whopping rating of 7.75, and rightfully so. 5 Man of the Match awards as well. I mean, this really outlines how important Somerville has been to Leeds this season. He's been an absolute menace. He's got pace, trickery, really good dribbling skills, an obvious eye for goal, and he's unselfish as well. He's laid it on for other players as well, as you can see there with the assists. His work rate has massively improved from previous seasons, where his tracking back and defensive work has been much better this season, and probably has been the standout player for Leeds this season. Really, really good, and still only 22 years old. I mean, you know, if we get promoted, you could see the likes of Somerville getting looked at by the Dutch international squad as well, because he really is a talent. So it's going to be vital for Leeds that Cree is absolutely on it against Leicester, because he could torment those. You know, he's a relatively short player in terms of height, so you know, with Leicester possessing some rather sizable defenders, you'd like to think that Cree might just be able to weave his way beyond them, and get the better of them. And we then move on to our other winger who has played a lot of minutes so far, or certainly made quite a few appearances, and that is Dan James. Experienced Welshman, 25 now. 9 starts, 3 sub-appearances, 794 minutes. Has bagged himself 3 goals and 4 assists. A much better output from Dan James this season compared to previous seasons for the Welsh winger. Has electric pace, and again you could just see that pace, you know, of the likes of Somerville and especially James, you know, causing the fullbacks at Leicester some problems. You would certainly like to think so, because the sheer amount of pace that Leeds' wingers have, you know, they've got to cause some problems for Leicester. We need them to. So yeah, you know, definitely something that hopefully Leeds can capitalise on there. And to be fair to James as well, another player over the 7 rating there with 7.08. Again, a very productive season for him so far. Next on the list is Luke Ayling. Kind of featured more at the start of the season, a little bit less in more recent games, but still manages 8 starts and 5 sub-appearances, totaling 750 minutes. Has 1 goal and 1 assist to his name. Both Luke Ayling and Liam Cooper, they do look like they are starting to struggle just a little bit. The pace of the division this season is probably, you know, quicker than it has been in previous championship seasons, and despite the wealth of experience that Ayling and Cooper have, you know, they're both 32 years old now, and I just feel it's starting to show just a little bit. But as I say, Ayling, he's still kicking around there, and the experience is going to be massive in the squad, and it's still a decent enough pair of players to have on the bench, providing that experience. But I do feel there's players ahead of Ayling at right back now. One of them being Jamie Shackleton, who realistically is a midfielder, but has hardly had a sniff at midfield. However, has looked very, very effective when playing at full-back. He's played both right-back and even left-back at times this season. He's managed 7 starts and 1 sub-appearance, with a total minutes of 675. He's 24 now. I remember Shackleton coming through the Leeds youth ranks and looking very, very promising. He's got 1 assist to his name so far, just a couple of yellows. Overall match rating of 6.73, which I think is a bit harsh. I think that Shackleton has been very, very consistent in his appearances for Leeds so far. I personally would like to see Shacks at right back against Leicester, if I'm totally honest. Next is Wilfred Gnonto, the Italian international, still only 19 years old. On his day, a super effective winger who, teams have doubled and tripled up on him in the past. But with the form of Dan James and Cree Somerville, hasn't been able to get into the side regularly this season. Just 6 starts and 2 sub-appearances, totaling 474 minutes. He has got a goal and an assist to his name, with an overall rating of 6.67. After that, you've got Finland international Glenn Kamara, signed from Rangers in the summer. Only 5 starts and 2 sub-appearances, but those starts have happened more recently, and it would be questionable as to whether Ampadu's midfield partner will be either Archie Gray or Glenn Kamara. Now, I would kind of outline that I think that Gray works better as a defensive midfielder, with Kamara being that little bit more effective as a kind of a 8/10, if that makes any kind of sense. Kamara is definitely someone that can aid the attack when required. He's got just 1 assist to his name so far, with a match rating of only 6.36, which is a little harsh. But on the flip side of that, look at his pass success rate, 92.7, very, very good. Joe Roden's passing at 90 as well is very high on the list. So definitely something to be considered there for Daniel Farke. Personally, I think that Archie Gray is better defensively than Kamara. So, knowing Leicester's attacking prowess, I'd possibly be looking at using Gray in midfield with Shackleton at right back, rather than using Gray at right back, and possibly drop Kamara to the bench. Just my own opinion. Other people may decide otherwise, including Farke, and that's fine. After that, you've got club captain Liam Cooper, great servant to the club, 32 years old, Scotland international. He's managed 3 starts and 4 sub-appearances so far, and has a goal to his name, a very good header early on in the season. But one of the reasons for his lack of appearances has been the injury that he picked up from scoring that goal. But again, he's just not been able to break into the team due to the form of Strauch and Roden. But again, still a highly experienced player to have on the bench, just like Ayling. And obviously a big Leeds fan, loves the club, and only wants the very best for Leeds United. So, I remember there was one of the matches where both Cooper and Ayling were practically working as assistant managers to Varka. Just kind of barking out instructions on the sideline, encouraging the players. It was really good to see. Really good to see. And then after that, you've got Jayden Anthony, the winger on loan from Bournemouth, who was part of a swap loan deal for Luis Sinisterra. I'm not going to mention anything about him other than that. Anthony has 2 starts and 7 sub-appearances with 1 goal so far, totalling 240 minutes, with a rating of 6.40. Cooper's rating was 6.48. So, there are other players on this list. They include Joe Gelhardt, Charlie Cresswell, Ian Piveda, Patrick Bamford, Ilya Gruev, Leo Hjaldi, Jed Spence, who has hardly played yet due to injury. You would imagine that Spence might come in at right back as soon as he becomes available. And finally Darko JB. I don't believe that Jed Spence is going to be available for the Leicester match. I think he's still recovering from his injury. I would highly doubt that Hjaldi or Gruev will start. I would doubt that Bamford would start. Same with Piveda, Cresswell, Gelhardt. I think they will all. Be, potentially on the bench. So, in terms of starting 11 for Leeds, I think that it will be Ilamilier in goal. I think it will be a defence of... Oh! Actually, it's one of my cats just kind of trying to climb up my chest there, and claws are still sharp even at the age of 14, 15. Bless her. So yeah, Ilamilier in goal. I would like to see Shackleton, I would like to see Shackleton at right back. With Sam Barham at left back. With a centre back pairing of Joe Rodon and Pascal Struijk. I would then like to see Ethan Ampadu and Archie Gray in the midfield. On the wings, Cree Somerville and Dan James, with Georgie Rutter and Joel Perreault doing the 9 and 10 positions. And the thing is, one of the great things about those 2 wingers and those 2 forwards is that they can interchange their positions throughout the match if Daniel Farke wants them to, and be equally effective to give different challenges to the Leicester defence. But it is that front 4 that is, looking really, really good this season. I mean, you can't argue, with, just taking the 2 wingers. 9 goals and 8 assists between them, and then with Georgie Rutter and Joel Perreault, 7 goals and 6 assists between them. There is a lot of high quality firepower just in those 4 players, and this is what Leicester will have to deal with tomorrow night if we assume that those 4 will all start. For me, all 4 of them have to start. We need their attacking prowess, and we need all of them to be as sharp as a kitchen knife, as a chopping knife. They have to be really on it. We've got to give Leicester problems as early as possible. I think that Daniel Farke will probably look to have a very patient approach to the match. I think Maresca might do as well, but ultimately this is going to be down to which team is on it from the start. We cannot afford to allow Leicester to take control of the match early on, and this is something that Leicester have done very successfully in a lot of their games. Leeds have been capable of taking control of matches as well in the past, and they will hopefully look to do the same here. Leeds have the disadvantage of being away. The match is at the King Power Stadium, and Leeds' home form has been better than Leeds' away form this season, so this is not going to be an advantage for Leeds, but hopefully, you know, it can be just one of those matches where, even away from home, Leeds really get into gear. So we'll see what happens in terms of lineup. I just hope that Farker makes the right decisions regarding personnel, tactics, formations. You know, we can't afford to sit back and park the bus. I don't think that Daniel Farker would allow that, quite frankly. It's not his style of play. And, you know, if we're going to be realistic about it, we really need to play on the front foot, even, you know, regardless of the opposition. We have to test that Leicester defence, because not enough teams have this season. They're rock solid, and it's about time that we test that that solidarity. And Leeds' front four are more than capable of causing Leicester's back five numerous problems. But it's a case of which Leeds United team turns up on the night. I don't care what Leicester do, I care what Leeds do. And if Leeds play to their extreme best, then I could see Leeds getting a result. My heart's telling me that it will be a Leeds win. My brain is telling me it will be a draw. I will never back Leeds to lose, because especially of how capable they have been at times this season. But you can't argue with the start that Leicester have had. One thing to consider, Leeds played Ipswich, Leeds beat Ipswich. Quite high scoring, I think it was about 4-3 in the end. But when you consider how well Ipswich have done this season, and the fact that Leeds are the only team to have beaten them so far as I know, you know, that speaks volumes, and Leicester will be aware of that. And Leicester have been beaten once, and it was a bit of a surprising result as well. I can't remember who beat them. Was it Hull, possibly? But either way, someone beat them. So that proves that it's not impossible. You know, they haven't lost many, haven't drawn many, but it is not an impossible task. And that's something that Leeds can take confidence with. Leeds have it in their locker to produce the goods here. It's just a case of whether they will or not. But with that being said, it is down to Leeds United to produce, you know, realistically they've got to produce their best performance of the season and hope that Leicester do have a bit of a wall. I don't think Leicester will have come up against this quality of strike force this season. I think that could be key. That could well be key. And ultimately, whichever of the two clubs silences the opposition's strike power, you know, that could be the defining moment in the match. I mean, again, it's down to whichever club keeps their nerve, isn't it? At the end of the day, but I really believe that Leeds are capable of getting a result here. But they have to turn up. The last time that they played a sizable team away from home, you know, was Southampton, and we got beat quite badly. We can't afford to be as sloppy as that again. If we are, then Leicester could hit 3 or 4 goals against us. But we did go 4 or 5 games consecutively with clean sheets, so the defence have proven that they can do it. But they are up against some, you know, top-end championship quality here, so we shall see what happens. So we'll leave it at that. Big thank you to everyone who watches the video. Gone into quite a bit of detail here regarding the players that both clubs have at their disposal, and the kind of stats that these players have been able to produce so far. Do please give the channel a subscribe. It's free to do. Do please give the video a like as well. Again, absolutely free to do. And do please put your comments below how you think this game's going to pan out. Can Leicester continue their crazy form, or can Leeds put a big dent into what they do this season? It's going to be vital for Leeds. They have to win this game, really. Just like we beat Ipswich, we've got to beat Leicester. It's the only way that Leeds can start to claw the gap between themselves and the top two, because there's hardly any other teams that are volunteering to do it. So, Leeds have to do it themselves. And this is where it's going to be crucial. I think Leeds have, they've got the quality to do it. You only have to look at some of them stats. There's some very, very good quality stats coming through there. Equally as favourable as some of Leicester's. And one little final point as well is that not many other YouTubers have predicted a draw. They've either gone with Leeds or they've gone with Leicester. They haven't predicted a draw, which is quite interesting when you consider the quality that both of these two teams have at this level. So let's see what happens. I mean, a draw is pretty useless to both teams, really. I mean, a draw is probably more effective for Leicester than it is for Leeds. Probably a point gained for Leicester, where it'll be 2 points dropped for Leeds, because of the fact that Leicester are already so high up in the table and so far ahead of Leeds in third. So let's hope that Leeds can do the business here. Let's hope that Leeds can do a very big performance and an even better result against Leicester City tomorrow night. Hope you can enjoy the game if you're able to watch it. And as I say, hopefully we can come away with the 3 points. It'll make a big difference in not just in the table, but in terms of confidence. Imagine the confidence that the Leeds players will have if they can take a scalp and kind of at least temporarily derail Leicester's progress. It would be a massive achievement at this stage. Again, it is only one game, it is only 3 points, but it could be so effective when it comes to that table going forward. So, with that in mind, folks, I'm going to leave it there. As I say, a big thank you for all of the support. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Do please like and subscribe so that you can see more regular content at West Yorkshire Retro Gamer. There's going to be more videos coming out, there's going to be more streams coming out, so do keep an eye out for all of those. Have a look at some of the other content that I've produced on YouTube as well. It is a growing page as far as YouTube's concerned, so I will continue to keep churning out as much content for the channel as I possibly can. And if you've got any suggestions as to anything that you'd like to see, whether it be to do with football or video gaming, whether it be recorded videos or live streams, again, do please keep it nice in the chat, don't kind of come up with anything nasty. But in the meantime, have a great morning, afternoon, evening, night, wherever you are around the world. Enjoy the game tomorrow, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.